Okay, so here we are at the classical era. The classical era can be noted for five things, among others, many others. One is that classical ideals of balance and clarity and naturalness prevailed. This is the age of enlightenment and it emphasized reason and science. It was the first music to thrive long after its time, and this means that because it was tuneful and balanced and less complicated. It's something that you could listen to, as the ages passed. And we've also, as classical artists, we've adopted this name right here. We haven't adopted the name of Baroque or Renaissance or medieval or even Romantic, but we've stuck with this when you think of artists that sing music of a certain type, you call them classical artists or classical singers or classical musicians. It was very symmetrical in its phrasing and homophony predominated. So let's move on to the next slide here. And so this slide here, I want you to kind of see a comparison of these two eras side by side. Now, the Baroque era, um, we have texture. The texture of the Baroque era was polyphonic and homophonic. These two coexisted. Um, and much like in the classical period too, both polyphonic and homophonic, but on the whole, more polyphonic. So this was the difference here in these two eras. And now let's go to melody. We have the melody in the Baroque period more lyrical and declamatory. Declamatory meaning recitative began, and these coexisted. And often they were very virtuosic. Remember the virtuoso that we learned about in the Baroque period and just sang or played fantastic pieces with lots of notes and words. This didn't really happen so much in the classical period. We have a growing importance in this area of periodic phrase structure in all genres of music, not just in dance music. In the Baroque era, rhythm, we had wide ranges of rhythms. They were extreme, they were smooth and flowing, and in contrast, choppy and irregular. And in the classical period, it's much more smooth flowing melodies. Now, that's not to say that there aren't fast pieces in classical, but it's just not as choppy. So let's move on to this next slide here. The art of the natural. So the artists looked to nature as their model during the classical period, and you'll see that even in the Romantic era as well. The composers' study allowed more direct expression, and the melodies became less ornate. Ornate meaning melismatic, virtuosic, overly ornamented, which are very much characteristics of the Baroque era. The textures tended toward homophony, and there's a more realistic opera plots and characters. An example of this is Mozart's Le Nozze di Figaro, which will be in the next slide. It's considered an opera buffa. And this is in comparison to the Baroque era, which those operas were based on Greek mythology. So here we have Cosa Sento, which is from the opera Le Nozze di Figaro by Mozart. And I want you to do a compare and contrast with this video, which is on Blackboard. And this video, Orfeo et Euridice, by Monteverdi, And of course, the piece is called Tu sei morta. And how is this piece different than Mozart? Both videos are on Blackboard. Of course, you've watched this one before, so it's not new to you. But write me a page on it, about 400 or 500 words, about their differences. Cosa sento and Orfeo et Euridice. The piece is called Tu sei morta. I look forward to reading your submissions.